Cult. Cult should be the endeavour which has taken on form, to make in some way acceptable to the earthly senses something that is beyond earthly comprehension. It should be the endeavour which has taken on form, but unfortunately this is not yet so, for otherwise many things would have to have quite different forms if they had emerged from the endeavour itself. The right way for this requires the breaking forth of the outward forms from the inmost being. But all we see today is an intellectual upbuilding, into which the intuitive perceptions are only afterwards to be pressed. Thus the opposite way is taken, which naturally might just as well be called the reverse, or wrong way, that can never really be inwardly alive. As a result, many a thing appears clumsy or obtrusive, which in another form would come much nearer to the real volition, and only then could have a convincing effect. Much that is well-intentioned must repel rather than convince, because the right form for it has not yet been found, which the intellect can never give for something that is beyond earthly comprehension. So is it also in the churches. The intellectual upbuilding here, which is directed towards earthly influence, is only too evident, and much that is good fails to impress, because it has an unnatural effect. On the other hand, only that which does not conform to the laws of creation can have an unnatural effect. Just such things, however, are very much in evidence in the present-day cults, where simply everything that is opposed to the natural laws of creation is shrouded in a mysterious darkness. However, just by unconsciously never speaking of a mysterious light in such matters, but always only of a mysterious darkness, men strike the right note. For the light knows no veiling, therefore also no mysticism either, which should have no place in the creation that arose out of the perfect will of God, and works automatically, in accordance with an unchangeable rhythm. Nothing is more clear in its weaving than just creation, which is the work of God. Therein lies the secret of success and continuity, or of collapse. Where something is built on these living laws of creation, there they help, bring success, and also continuity. But where these laws are not observed, either through ignorance or self-will, sooner or later collapse must inevitably follow, for nothing that does not stand on a firm and solid foundation can endure permanently. That is why so much of man's work is transient, when it need not be so. This includes many kinds of cults, which have to undergo continual changes to prevent them from complete collapse. In the simplest and clearest manner, the Son of God gave to earthmen in his word the right path on which to lead their lives on earth, in accordance with this weaving of creation, so that through the laws of God that operate in the weaving of creation they might be helped, sustained, and uplifted to luminous heights, and so also attain to peace and joy on earth. Unfortunately, however, the churches have not followed the way to the redemption and upliftment of mankind, quite clearly explained and given to them by the Son of God himself. Instead, they have added to his teaching many of their own ideas as well, thereby naturally creating confusion, which was bound to cause dissensions, because it was not in accordance with the laws of creation, and therefore, strange as it may sound, is also opposed to the clear teaching of the Son of God, although they call themselves Christians after him. So is it, for example, with the Mariolatry of the papal Christians. Did Jesus, who taught men everything, how they should think and act, yes, even speak and pray, in order to do what is right, and what lies in the will of God, ever say even one single word of the kind? No, he did not. And this is a proof that he did not wish it either, that it was not to be. There are even statements by him which prove the opposite of what Mariolatry implies. And surely Christians would wish through honest living to follow only Christ, otherwise they would not be Christians. If still more has now been added by men, and the papal churches act otherwise than as Christ taught, it is proof that this church has the effrontery to set itself above the Son of God, for it tries to improve on his words by instituting practices which the Son of God did not want, because otherwise he would undoubtedly also have taught them, judging by all that he gave to men. Certainly there is a Queen of Heaven, who, according to earthly conceptions, could also be called the primordial mother, and who yet possesses the purest virginity. She, however, has dwelt from all eternity in the highest heights, and has never been incarnated in an earthly body. And it is she, her radiated picture, but not in reality herself, that can occasionally be seen or intuitively perceived by persons who have been profoundly moved. Through her, help often comes at such an accelerated speed that people call it a miracle. However, it is never possible, even for the most matured human spirit, to have an actual vision of this primordial queen herself, because in accordance with the inflexible laws of creation, each species can always only see the same species. Thus the physical eye can only see earthly things, the ethereal eye only ethereal things, the spiritual eye only spiritual things, and so on. And since the human spirit can only see the spiritual, from which it has emerged, it is unable actually to behold the primordial queen, who is of a much higher species. But should anyone ever be so blessed, it would only be possible to see her spiritually radiated picture. This, however, appears so lifelike, and can be so strong even in its radiation, that it works miracles wherever it finds the soil prepared for it, through unshakable faith, or the deep emotions arising out of suffering or joy. This lies in the working of creation, which issues from and is sustained by the perfect will of God. In this working also lies all help for men, from the beginning and unto all eternity, providing they themselves do not turn away from it in their pretentious learnedness. God manifests in creation, for it is his perfect work. And it is just on account of this perfection that the earthly birth of the Son of God had also to be preceded by a physical procreation. Whoever asserts the contrary throws doubt on the perfection of the works of God, and thus also on the perfection of God himself, out of whose will creation issued. An immaculate conception is a conception in purest love, as opposed to a conception in sinful lust, but no earthly birth without procreation. If an earthly conception, that is, a physical procreation as such, could not be immaculate, then every motherhood would have to be regarded as unclean. Through creation God also speaks, and clearly shows his will. To recognize this will is the duty of man. And the Son of God, in his holy word, showed the right way to do so, because men had made no effort towards it, and had thus entangled themselves more and more in the self-acting laws of creation. This inflexible weaving of creation was bound to destroy men in time through their ignorance and misapplication, whereas it will raise mankind on high if they live aright, according to the will of God. Reward and punishment for man lie in the weaving of creation, which is perpetually and unswervingly guided by the will of God itself. In it also lies rejection or redemption. It is relentless and just, always impartial, never arbitrary. In it lies the indescribable greatness of God, his love and justice, that is, in his work, which he made over to man and to many other beings as a dwelling place and a home. The time has now come for men to acquire the knowledge of it, so that with complete conviction they will come to the recognition of God's activity, which is expressed in his work. Then every earthman will stand quite unshakable here on earth, filled with the most joyful eagerness to work, most gratefully looking up to God, because recognition links him for all time through the knowledge. In order to convey to mankind such knowledge, which gives them a clear and intelligible conviction of the working of God in his justice and love, I have written the work In the Light of Truth, which leaves no gap, contains the answer to every question, and clearly shows to mankind how wonderful are the ways in creation that are upheld by many servants of his will. But God alone is holy,